Welcome to another episode of the Jibber Jabber podcast, and Jordan's face when he realizes he wasn't the only one on the screen. You are like he's gonna do it.
I was 100% convinced you were just going to leave me hanging here like a dirty sock in the wind again.
And while that clip was playing, I could see your camera, and you're like, you're just like anticipating being left with your big face on the screen.
If it happened, I was just going to do this. Out of here.
Class. So, welcome back to the Jibber Jabber podcast. Today we will be talking about Justice League, not the 2017 Justice League, what they call the Justice League.
Yeah.
You see what I did there? Today we are talking about Zack Snyder's epic 4-hour-long Justice League. As always, we pick movies and look at it from a standpoint that can be a bit controversial sometimes on J-Mac's end. However, today we have a guest joining us. What's that face of it?
What do you mean?
You'll see. Today we have a guest joining us, actually my brother-in-law, who happens to be like an encyclopedia when it comes to the superhero stuff like Marvel and DC. And I know he's probably shaking his head right now going, I'm not. But he is, because he tells me pretty much everything that happened from the source material from like the Justice League and whatever, and stuff that I still don't even know. So would you compare his knowledge of DC to your knowledge of wrestling? Yes, I would say so. He's probably going to be modest and be like, totally not. But without further ado, we're going to bring him into the show here right now. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Damian. There he is! I swore I wouldn't do that.
No, I'm not an encyclopedia. More like Wikipedia. More like Wikipedia. You can't actually trust what I say, but it's probably roughly right.
The thing is about Wikipedia, that would mean that other people could tell you what you know, and you just have to accept it.
Yeah. I change the facts all the time, like from conversation to conversation.
Yeah. I mean, it's the only way to live life, to be honest. I mean, it keeps things interesting, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
So we all kind of just recently watched the 4-hour cut because it just recently dropped. So we'll kind of kick it off before we've got a question. And by the way, if you're listening to this on Spotify or anywhere that you can't see us, make sure to go to YouTube because you can actually see this show. You can interact with us as we're live. We have a comment here from Facebook, Sarah Ann Carr. Never heard of her in my life. I've not watched this Justice League / DC movies. Tend to be pants. I guess we should try this as everyone is raving about it.
I think Sarah's only commented on this to test me to see if we'd read it out because we didn't read out our last one and she was upset.
Well, sorry.
So you're welcome, but keep them coming. We all love a good comment. So,
but she's seen the pattern.
Yeah, but to kind of just talk about briefly what she's saying. I'm not a big fan of DC and Marvel movies in general, so I'm going to say that before we start talking about this, just so you know where my normal standpoint is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I like good stories, regardless whether superheroes or whatever. But I think it's cool to have superpowers, so I've always kind of been open. And like Damien and I have had conversations in the past where I'll say, "Oh, I like this movie, Damien." Right? Something I thought he'll never have heard of. He go, "Oh, well, I read the comic and it's shite." I'm like, "Why? Why?"
100% true.
I'm like, why? He's like, because he's not even in it. He didn't die, and that guy got his head cut off.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And
That's exactly how it goes every single time.
Do you remember? I'm going to say this actually, Kevin. Do you remember that time in Kayam where you asked me if I'd seen Avengers: Infinity War yet, and I said no, but I'm going to at some point. And he went, right. Do you mind if I say something about it? It's not too spoilery. I'm like, right, okay. He says, well, and he kind of gives me a story, and he says that, and what happens is Spider-Man dies, and I was like, what? Wait a minute. It might have been the previous one, actually. It might have been. I can't remember. He's like, anyway, Spider-Man dies, and I was like, oh, thanks. He's like, oh, it doesn't die in that way in the comic. So, or something. I can't remember. It was his impression of what a spoiler is very convoluted. So in his mind, telling you that somebody quite major to a story dies is not a spoiler. So what is a spoiler? It's up to the gods.
Sorry, I mean that's my style. So we all recently watched it, so it's probably in the last week. I done the full 4-hour sitting. Damien, I think you did as well, yeah.
Yeah, it's the first DC movie I've watched since Green Lantern.
Wow.
I haven't
and
watched
Jordan,
any others.
aye. Well, that's about to change. Yeah, Jordan, you actually watched it over 2 sittings. You had to go to your bed, right?
No, actually, I watched them in 2 sittings, but in the afternoon both times, because my wee boy went out to play in the afternoons, so it gave us peace to actually sit down and watch them. So we did the first half on the Saturday afternoon and the second half on the Sunday.
All right.
So yeah, I mean, it didn't mean. Normally, I hate doing that with a film. I like to just sit down and watch it from start to finish, as most people do. But I had to make an exception in this case. But do I think I could watch it in one sitting? You'll find out later.
Well, so I when I initially watched the first Justice League, the 2017 one, I was like, it was all right. I quite liked Man of Steel. I thought that what was the one that come after that? The
Batman versus Superman.
Yeah, I thought that was a bit like
sucky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's.
And then Justice League came out, and I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. But then I saw this one and was like, well, you know what? I much preferred the Zack Snyder cut to the Joss Whedon one.
I haven't seen the Joss Whedon one, right? But from speaking to people in general about it, it sounds like the Joss Whedon one was better, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, tell us why.
Well, there's lots of reasons why. I'm sure
we can get into that we'll get into that as it goes on.
Have a list. No.
For me, the differences, like you've always said this, Damien, that the creators should be free to make, like, if they're going to take something from a comic book, they should be free to make it into a movie the way it was intended to be, put out there by the writer, by the creators, because that's what the fans actually love, and that's why they're making it in it. Now, I don't know if you felt that this was at all in that kind of vein, because 4 hours, the fact that they gave him like 70 million, they gave Zack Snyder 70 million to recut a movie that he'd already filmed, maybe do a couple patch jobs, but they gave him 70 million and said, you can do this whole 4 hours. Now, here's one thing I'll take away from that. Look at what just happened there, right? They gave 70 million to someone to recut a movie, right, into 4 hours that won't be in the cinema. Think about that for a second.
Well, it can't be in the cinema. They probably would have put it in the cinema if they could have.
Yeah, but the fact that it was successful without being in the cinema,
it's quite
exciting.
It
successful though? Has it made the money back? Or is it just bringing in new fans or old fans or whatever?
The reviews and everything have been raving.
Yeah, I happen to have seen an article earlier on that said that there may now be more of these movies because of the financial success of what's just been released. So
I've heard this, and The Rock is getting behind it and stuff like that. But I think that's more everyone jumping on the bandwagon than actual bands.
I could be wrong here, but I'm starting to get the impression that you don't like this film.
Before I say anything about it, I want to say that I like Zack Snyder. I think he's awesome. I don't think I could do what anyone in that studio and crew could do, or even the screenwriter or the scriptwriter or whatever. But it was pish.
Alrighty. Well, to be honest, I actually had a very similar conversation with a guy at work yesterday who I liked the movie, so I recommended it to him. Said, you need to watch it. It's really, really good. And he came in, that was last week. So he came in this week. I spoke to him on Wednesday. And he's like, oh, I watched Justice League, by the way. I was like, did you? He's like, I was shite.
Right.
I thought he was kidding at first. I genuinely thought he was kidding. Shout out to Ross. How you doing, man?
I really, really struggled with it. The first half hour, I didn't want to go back. I sort of just paused it, walked around the room a little bit, looked out the window.
Wow.
Well, what I'll do is I'll kind of create a bit of narrative here to the audience. So 2016 was when Zack Snyder had to leave the production of Justice League because he had a family emergency or tragedy, which turned out to be that his daughter took her own life. That's enough to take somebody away for any kind of project. I can understand that. So Whedon took over. right? But they kept Zack Snyder as the directing credit, and they put Whedon as an executive screenwriter or something like that. There's some funny stuff. We'll get into that though. So what happened was they released Justice League in 2017, and everybody's like, "This is pish. This is pish. DC's done. We're all a bit Marvel, right?" But then I think there was a clip from on a YouTube channel or something. There was a clip that Snyder had put out that was like, he put a wee clip out and was like, "Oh, if only I had done it," right? Which then on Reddit had people going, "Well, maybe you should have just. Why can't you just go back and do it?" Which started this campaign of all the
Snyder cut.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Hashtag Snyder Cut. Restore the Snyder Cut, and this kind of snowball effect to the point where it was such an online presence that the studio were like, "Do you know what? We're going to give this guy 70 million and see if he can patch this thing together," right? And there we go. 2021, we get to see what Snyder's initial kind of plan was for the.
I think that's part of the reason that people are saying they like it is you don't want to fight so hard for something like they did. I mean, I think it was the #1 trend of Twitter of all time or something like that. And then it comes out and you don't like it. You don't want to be like, "Oh, actually, that was shit."
I would. I'd talk like, by the way, kind of that stuff we just done. Oh, maybe.
So, do you have any idea what I could have done with $70 million, Zach? That was nonsense.
That was nonsense.
No, I'm not saying that, but that's the impression I'm getting from you.
Yes.
Right.
Well, let's kind of break.
Well, Sarah's not listening anymore. Good night. See you later.
You have a good night too, Sarah. Thanks for watching the show for all of 14 minutes. Hi. It's longer than J-Mac lasts.
Wow. Hang on a minute.
I meant watching movies, you daft.
You take that out of context very fucking easily. Oh, demonetized. Sorry.
So I kind of one of the first things that stands out about the new Justice League was the character Steppenwolf. Like, man, he looked so much cooler than he did in the original in the 2017. I was about to go to Damian.
Steppenwolf is not a cool looking guy, and the source material. He is Darkseid's uncle, and he is a man like you, me, Jordan. Well, wears a helmet with that like stupid horn design. That's it. I mean, he's got superpowers. I mean, he's on par with Superman, but he's just a guy. I don't know why they've made him a 7'8" alien. What's the point in this?
See, this kind of led me on to a question that I'm going to ask you just now, Damien. Do you think that this film was made for the masses or for the fans?
Well, I think this film was made for Zack Snyder, to be honest. I don't think he was making it with the intent that it appeals to the wide audience. I don't think he was making it for the fans. I think he was making it the way he wanted to make it, the way he wants to take it, the universe that he wants to see the general public seeing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So he doesn't think like the general public will love this. He thinks this is what I want them to see.
That's quite a kind of bold move, considering there's so much source material. That would be a very, very bold, if not stupid, move.
Well, he shits all over so many characters. I mean, I'm surprised no one's talked about online, but Batman has the highest kill count in that movie by a long shot. He's got 2 mounted machine guns on the Batmobile, and there's just mowing down parademons. And no one's like, "Oh, wait a second."
See, that's one of the elements of the Snyder Batman character that I like, and it's the fact that he is darker and he's a bit more. He seems to enjoy what he does a little bit more than.
I mean, he's supposed to enjoy what he does, but he doesn't believe in killing people or killing anything. And he's just taken the Batman character and confused him with the Punisher. You know?
I get that, but I think times have changed, and I think people want to see more. People want more visceral kind of imagery to keep them interested, and that's just a modern audience thing for the most part. I think.
True. But
So there's always when you get a translation from a graphic novel to a movie or a comic book to a movie, there are always liberties that get taken regardless of how small or big. It's just a matter. It's just down to the individual how much you're willing to accept, and it's obviously there's a lot in this that you know that I don't, obviously, and I can see you feel pretty strongly about it. But we'll go through it. I mean, this is a kind of a wee general overview to start with, but we'll get into
from Facebook. Graham Mollison says, "Was there much
Graham.
difference between both movies?" Well, we're going to get to that.
And the answer is yes. There's a lot of differences.
There's like 2 or 3 hours of differences.
Yeah. To be honest, I think this is just a quick comment. I think the film could have been 3 hours long if there wasn't so much slow-mo. That's, looking back on it, my big bugbear with the film. I never had any bugbears when I first watched it, but when I'm thinking back on it, there was too much slow motion.
There were a few bugbears, actually, which we should get out of the way right now, right? I had a few bugbears. You know that part where they're like this, we're going to set the fire. It's Wonder Woman's folks, and they've just destroyed that big temple and knocked it into the sea for no reason.
Some deep studying going on there, like...
What?
Wonder Woman's folks. Amazons.
The Amazons, right?
And Themyscira.
Right. So they're like, do it. So they destroy this big temple for no reason because the baddies just like, right? It's like, oh well, that kind of sucked, right? And then she's like, we need to call her, right? Who is Wonder Woman? It's like, she'll know. And they get the arrow, and she shoots it all the way across the world. It hits the wee temple, goes on fire, right? She's now in an art gallery, and she looks at TV, and they're like, oh, report about arson. Blah, blah, blah. We need to find who it was that set this thing on fire, criminal stuff. And then she's like, cool, I'm going to go investigate. And the arrow's still there. See if you were a cop or a fireman. Yeah. And you're like, what set this fire? There's a random arrow sitting right there. Well, we take it out and have a look.
Yeah.
Right.
She wasn't even cordoned off. She just walked right up to it.
There's an arrow. Like, did no one go, wait a minute, there's an arrow before she got there? It was all over the fucking news. No one was like, this could have caused it. What's this? They were just like, it clearly wasn't that arrow. Just leave that where it is. Let's try and find out where the fire come from.
That was as well. Because they said the fire's not going out. And then she gets there and it's out. And I'm like, well, what the fuck's happened?
It rained.
Oh, and before we go on to the next bugbear, Heather Dow has just become a YouTube member. Wow. Thanks very much, Heather. That's actually, you're our first ever member. That's a subscriber. You can check out all 3 tiers by going to the join button. That's amazing, Heather. Thank you very much for that here on YouTube. That's class. Also, did you notice that Dr. Stone is Miles Davis from Terminator 2?
Yes.
Of course. That's Joe Morton.
I was like,
I love Joe Morton. Do you know what?
Yes.
He's even good in bad movies. You know what I mean? He's good in Speed 2, and that's officially one of the worst things I've ever seen. So, shout out to Joe Morton. You're a legend, man.
One of my other another bugbear comes back to Wonder Woman yet again, right? It's just there's 2 of her. See that part where the guy from Game of Thrones is like, he's tried to destroy this building, this bank place or whatever, right? And Wonder Woman comes, takes the bomb, flies up at the sky and throws it. Then she comes back down, right? So she comes all the way back down. Dum! She faces him, and he's like, I'm just going to mow down all these people. And he's like, and she's running, getting all this, ting, 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 stopping all the bullets. Why didn't she just land on him on the way back down? She could have just landed on him.
The hole might have been further in front of him.
Come on. Nah, sorry. She could have landed on him.
And as far as I know, Wonder Woman doesn't have X-ray vision like Superman has, so she couldn't kind of look through the roof to see where he was and land on him. And I love that sequence. I love the ding, 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 ding sequence.
I thought that was
issues
with that exact sequence. Like
all of the
bugs
I love that.
I love that sequence. That sequence.
Do you know what would have made that sequence better? Do you know what would have made that sequence just a bit better? If one missed and shot someone in the face, like, oh my bad. Yeah. That would have made it just like,
yes. And she wouldn't be Wonder Woman.
She can't actually even how fast she was moving in that sequence. She can't even do that. She can't see fast enough to do that. So I was watching that the whole time, going like, What's going on, man?
Wow. Right.
It's
See,
awful.
this could be the issue that I might have right now. I mean, obviously, like I said, I really enjoyed it, but I'm not a big superhero or comic book fan. So that might be why I enjoyed it more. I had nothing to compare it to except the Justice League. That's the only one I had to compare it to. So
I think that's another reason why people like it is because they've been given worse and then given a slightly better version. They're like, this is really good. Like Eddie Murphy says, if you're starved and then given a Ritz, that'd be like the best cracker you've ever had on earth.
Ritz are class, though, right? Anyway, before we move on, I have one last bugbear, and that is this. Isn't all of this just pretty much the Marvel stuff, but with different character names? Like, tell me that Darkseid isn't Thanos.
No, Darkseid was written first. If that makes you feel any better.
Well, fair news.
I think both universes are very comparable anyway. I actually looked at this earlier on. You've got Superman and Captain Marvel are pretty similar. You've got Green Arrow and Hawkeye, pretty similar. Wonder Woman, Supergirl, pretty similar. I think they've all got an equivalent in some way, shape, or form.
Oh, they call every single hero from each other.
Iron Man, Cyborg. Cyborg's just a kind of slightly more unfortunate version of Iron Man.
What I don't like about it is this, right? Is the fact that they're like, this guy's coming to destroy this place. Of course he is. Isn't that what they've done in the whole Marvel thing as well? Right?
I didn't like that.
Right, and here's another thing. So now that Darkseid has come and been like, oh, we're going to destroy this place, and away back you go. The second movie is going to be, well, I'm coming now to destroy this place. Can it not be about something other than them just trying to destroy the place?
Yeah,
because it's the same movie. Then you're getting each time. What if Darkseid comes and is like, do you know what? I'm not here to destroy the place. I'm actually here to do something different, and it takes it a bit more personal.
That's an issue. That's an issue I've got.
More personal.
Yeah, that's an issue I've got with movies in general, though. Like, even if you think about an alien invasion movie, why do they always just want to come and fuck things up, as opposed to use the facilities? Like, if you want to take over the world, why destroy it first? Take it over and then do something good with it. Do something with your power, instead of just blowing it up and then going, I've took over the world. Oh, it's a shithole, man.
DC movies in particular have that really bad habit of doing what you just said. Like Man of Steel, Zod comes to destroy Earth, right? And then he's trying to convince Superman to his side. So he shows him what's going to happen. And he just shows him like a fucked landscape and a bunch of skulls, and Superman gets sucked into it. And he's like, no! And then Zod's like, so? Pretty cool, right?
It's like, that was convincing. Thanks.
Yeah. I wasn't sold, but now I am.
What do you want to play? Fucking foot skull.
Like he literally sinks into all these black skulls, and he's screaming no. And Zod's like, well,
It's like trying to convince somebody that's never smoked to start smoking by showing them a black lung. There you go. You get that?
That's pretty rad, right?
Aye.
That's exactly what it is.
Heather Dow, our actual YouTube member, she's a YouTube supporter. Heather Dow says, I really enjoyed it, actually. Need to watch it again, though, to take it all in. I'm a woman and ask too many questions, apparently. Hey, nothing wrong with asking too many questions. You can come here and ask as many as you like.
A woman.
I have a few bugs with the movie that aren't actually related to the comics, though. Just bugs with the movie in general. Like the people that take over that bank place, which we all assume is a bank. Why is there kids there? Is there like a class of kids in that bank?
I think it's a museum, is it not? Is it not a museum?
I don't know
the kids
what
are on a day trip.
But then he's like, if I see any movement, I'm going to start mowing down these hostages. And then sets a bomb for a minute that he's going to blow up with as well. Just walk into the place and blow yourself up. What are you playing at? You're the worst terrorist I've ever seen.
I didn't even get the job done.
And then
that is true.
Wonder Woman as well, right? Like bursting into place, grabbing people by the face, throwing them into walls, just clearly killing people. And then this guy, she decides to bang her bracelets together and blow up the whole building herself. Like, this is how it's done.
I did think that was stupid. Like when she did that, right? And then, first of all, with it being a Zack Snyder film, I would have liked to have seen what happened to that guy she did it to, right? That was the first thing. It should have been a bit more graphic, right? But then, how much blunt force trauma is she causing to all the cops outside?
Yeah,
that are sitting there taking a shower of concrete. That's a problem. I mean, it's not like a cartoon where you can put an umbrella up and stop it. If concrete's flying at you, you're getting mashed.
That's mashed a few people outside, and then it's like hugging a kid on the inside.
That is something that is highlighted in the DC universe, because in Marvel, like buildings are falling on folk, and it's like, ta-da, we're the saviors, and everybody's like, right?
You see like people getting crushed, and it's not all right and stuff.
Right, and hence this is why Batman and Superman had their issue. It's because Batman's like, well, wait a minute, okay, you fought that big alien fella Zod, but you squashed wee Davy. Right?
There's wee Davy. We need wee Davy t-shirts. We need to know what wee Davy looks like. If somebody out there watching is good at drawing, can you draw us a version of wee Davy? Any wee Davy you want, send it in to us and we'll get it printed on a t-shirt. We'll actually do that. Heather down, thanks very much.
Here is a little something, right? So here's a little side story. A cop sitting having a bagel, and his cousin Wee Davy is going to join him, and he's on his way up the boulevard, and a building lands on him, and all he sees is Superman flying away, right? And then skip, a week from now, Superman's getting the whole statue, and everybody's like, Superman, and he's like, fuck Superman, killed my cousin, right? That there is the beginning of a bad guy. That's a bad guy. That's a good story. That's a movie.
But didn't Avengers already do that?
Did they?
I think there was a movie where like some guy was angry his sister had been killed or something, caused like the Civil War.
That was Quicksilver.
Yeah.
Well, I think in X-Men he was mad his sister died, but in Marvel, when he's played by someone completely different, they're mad that their parents got done in.
But wasn't the bad guy in that movie just a guy that was setting it all up because they killed his sister by accident?
I think so. I can't remember.
I've got a feeling Damien might be right.
Yeah,
right, absolutely.
What you're talking about is a negative arc where instead of like someone changing for the better over time, they change for the worse, like Anakin from Star Wars. But they don't do that. They just give you bad guys and be like, "Here's why you should hate them," and then have them kill someone on screen, and you'd be like, "No."
Here's why you should hate him, because he wants to destroy everything. What have you got left?
Do you like everything?
Well, don't get used to
it. So I don't know if I missed this or if it was answered. I mean, I know you asked me. I watched it in 2 seconds. Kevin did it in 2 seconds. Damien, what did you do?
I done it in one with a long break in between.
Sorry, you did one sitting. So you both did it in one sitting?
But I took a long break. I probably had to walk about, stretch out my frustrations and that.
Kind of wearing a groove in the floor. What the fuck are they doing? What are they doing?
And it wasn't even just like source material stuff. It was just stupid film making. I couldn't make a film, but the stuff I was seeing was stupid. Like the Wonder Woman bit we just talked about. The starter movie was awful as well. Superman screaming for 10 minutes while we watched people's reactions to it.
I understood that. The reason that was his death cry, right? It
wasn't even that cool. It was worse than that.
I know, right? But here's the thing: the boxes. Remember how they said those 3 boxes, which are like the Infinity Stones, right? They just need to merge, just like the Infinity Stones need to merge with the gauntlet, right?
Slightly comparable, yeah.
Right. So they awoke after Superman died. And the reason they didn't wake until he died was because they knew that with him on that planet, they would stand no chance, right? Because remember when they're all at that wee table and they're like, they only awoke once he died. So if you go back,
I did notice that, but it was still a terrible start to the movie.
But if you go back to the start, you notice they do wake after that scream, that death scream goes past. Which, by the way, I think it's a wee shame that Superman died when Big Doomsday stabbed him up. Doomsday
was in. Doomsday was been in DC already.
Yeah, he was only in it at the end. They came in, stabbed Superman, and then they got destroyed.
Sounds terrible.
Well, elaborate.
Oh, well, like, how did he appear in the DC ones?
Lex Luthor went into a pool of water with one of those stones and was like, brabba, rabba, rabba, rabba. And then a big thing appeared and it's like a 400-foot Doomsday thing's like, to destroy the whole city, and then Superman's like, no, you didn't, and Batman's like, no, you. What he said, I'll kind of kick back here and throw things at you because I can't fly. And then Superman's like fighting him, and then when Superman like takes the final hit in order to kind of allow them to do in Doomsday, he gets like big spiky fingered right through the chest, and he goes, which
and that's the start of Justice League.
Yes,
for the first 10 minutes.
That did drag a bit. See, this is the stuff that I'm looking at in hindsight. Like I said to Kevin, like the day I watched it or whatever, I was like, it was 4 hours long. There's nothing I would take out. I have definitely changed my mind on that, like I said earlier on. And that is one thing. I think that sequence could have, instead of being 10 minutes, they could have done that in 3. You know,
they could have not done it at all. I would have also been okay with that. Just seeing Miller boxes activating would have been all right with me. Instead of
that's terrible. I liked it. It was much better than that Firstest League one.
I haven't seen it to comment. So,
I mean, the first one opened up with kids interviewing Superman on their mobile phone camera, and it was just cringy. And
the CGI his lip because
obviously the CGI lip was a problem because of that, and it's not just that; it's just the content. The content's naff. See, the problem with the original one is it got too much Joss Whedon in it. It was too much humor where it wasn't kind of justified. This movie is a lot less in your face with the humor. The only character that gives any comic relief really is the Flash. And to be honest, I like most of his stuff. Me and my wife were chuckling away at most of the quips that he had, and they did add a bit of kind of levity to kind of dire situations, but not too much. Whereas I think Marvel does it far too much.
Which was the Flash's was always his thing in the Justice League, was they joke about a very bad situation. So I was okay with that too.
Well, they did something right.
Well, kind of. I don't think Ezra Miller played Barry Allen well, but I think his script was written well, if that makes sense.
See, my Barry Allen from my childhood is like 40. You know, this. I don't know if you ever seen. How old are you, Damian? If you don't mind me asking.
A year younger than me.
Yes.
How old are you?
28.
28. Right. Well, when I was a kid, there was a Flash TV series, and I can't remember the guy's name, unfortunately, but it was the guy that played Bastion's dad in Neverending Story 2, which is everybody knows is the best Neverending Story film. But I can't. But he must have been about 40 when he played the Flash, maybe in his mid-30s. And that's who I remember as the Flash. So it was a bit weird for me seeing him as like a 18 or 19-year-old kid.
Well, he was a fully grown man when he became the Flash, so I had that issue.
Right. So there is that. But do you think he played the character well?
No. I think the character was written well, and his job in the movie was amazing. But that actor he obviously didn't know how to play it. He thought he had to play Shia LaBeouf playing the Flash. So
we need to talk about Ezra.
But Doomsday. He should have had a movie to himself. Doomsday is completely and utterly unkillable, and the only way to get rid of him is to throw him away, or get him away, get him away from you somehow.
That's what they done. They took him right out to the atmosphere and blew him up, didn't they?
No, he doesn't die. He does not die. That's his thing. At some point, Doomsday is always working his way back to Earth. So you just need to keep getting him further and further away and hope that it's a lot later. There's no answer to Doomsday. That's why his name's Doomsday, funnily enough, because when he comes, that's the end of everything. So to have him appear at the last minute and die is shit.
I suppose when you kind of look at it that way.
He killed Superman and like he stayed dead for like 2 comics. It was very impressive.
Man, this is starting to feel like an episode of fucking Newsnight. Just got very opposing views everywhere. But the thing is, you obviously have the most authentic view because you're a big fan of the source material.
In theory, it should be made for the fans. Like I see being a fan of these things and them getting movies is like a Kickstarter. You know, you're giving your money, and when they buy that license, they should be loyal to you. But instead they're like, no, other people won't like that. Fuck that.
But unfortunately, the movie business is just that. It's a business, and it's about making as much money as possible. So you can, it doesn't matter what you do, you risk pissing off the fans. But then you also get the fans who will pay money to go see a movie and go, oh well, that was a waste of money. It was exactly the same as a comic. So how do you win? How do you win in that situation?
I've not encountered any of those fans. I mean, see, the Marvel films, they're not super accurate, but they're far more accurate than DC films, and I can enjoy a watch of them. Like, I go, that's not right, but fuck it, I'm having fun.
But am I right in saying that you're a bigger DC fan than you are Marvel? Like, to the source material?
Miles bigger.
So would you say you prefer the D?
Yes.
C.
Sorry, man. Don't know why
usually when we do like a movie episode, it's a deep dive and we go through it kind of chronologically through the movie. But tonight's format's a little bit different because it's such a long movie. We're kind of just treating it like an open conversation on the movie rather than
chronologically, but I have a lot to say about like every minute.
4 hours long worth of a movie. But I mean, so we'll give it a brief description of the movie and different parts as to what we dislike. So obviously it kicks off with Superman getting done in from the previous movie, and then what you see is the battle cry, the death cry, which kind of transcends across the whole world. It awakens the mother boxes, which are 3 boxes that once they come together, they pretty much they can be wielded just like the gauntlet.
I'll say that the mother boxes in the comics obviously were just like smartphones to a specific alien race. They were nothing special. Everyone sort of had a mother box. Superman had one tied to his arm for a while. There were nothing special. I mean, they can teleport you and stuff, which is really cool, but world ending, the Infinity Stones, they are not.
So that's something they kind of changed. The thing I was a bit funny was like, right, so the big bad guy, Darkseid, he came to Earth before, tried to take it over, left his big stamp on it, right, and then got done in and had to retreat, and then went, can't you mind where I left that planet? Well, can that time that we got defeated, the only time in history that I've ever been defeated, something that really bothers me to the point of I'm still searching for. Where was that again? You know, because we're so advanced as an alien race that we've got these boxes that can pretty much do anything, but I just can't find my Sith nav.
Not only that, Darkseid's people have things called Fowler boxes, which are exactly mother boxes that would be able to get him back there in an instant. So
that just makes the film too easy. That just makes
also,
come on.
All those people never would have beat Darkseid in a fight. Superman can't beat Darkseid in a straight fight. So that was just a lot of shit watching that. So frustrated.
Well, Superman didn't fight him though, did he?
No, but 1-on-1 he's losing.
Again. The thing is though, what would have made more sense to me is rather than going, where did we leave that planet that I couldn't conquer? Maybe because he couldn't conquer it, those people all those guys put something around the Earth which makes him not able to penetrate it. Which is why that what's his face? Steppenwolf heads to Earth himself to kind of try and destroy that barrier. Now that's not I'm here to destroy the Earth. That's I'm here to destroy the barrier, which then is like, we're not trying to destroy everything. So it sets up the next movie for we're trying to destroy everything, right? All I'm trying to do is get my nephew that's no longer my nephew into this planet to destroy it or to take over it.
I personally think they should have just stuck to the source material there because the first time we see Darkseid, you don't see the full extent of what he's capable of. He's just there just to kill Wonder Woman's gods, like the Zeus, the Ares, right? He sees them as a threat and he wants them dead. He comes, he beats the living crap out of them, right? And then Wonder Woman, through some DC crap, manages to get her essence in him, which weakens him because he's now a kinder person, so he leaves. Which would have been fine. They just could have had Wonder Woman beating him somehow and sending him away instead of him nearly getting killed by Zeus, and it just makes him look like a puss. Because at this point, Superman could beat Zeus, so you're like, well, what's the issue here?
This should be a left, right, and it's over.
You've beat this guy before, so what's the issue?
What I did like, obviously, we'll get towards it the end, is the way it kind of does end. I mean, don't get me wrong, I can lose myself in the movie and kind of enjoy it, without taking it too seriously and getting right in it. But there was a couple of things I'm like, what? So at this point, Steppenwolf shows up, and he's like, what I liked about this version of the movie is the fact that Steppenwolf now has a purpose, as in this 2017. You didn't really know why he was there. He was there with a purpose, but you didn't know that he'd been actually exiled from Darkseid, and that this was him coming back and being like, please take me back. I'll do this.
Which it seemed unnecessary storyline for that. Can't he just be doing what he's told? Is that not allowed?
I think the purpose of this story was to give the characters, all of them, more of a story instead of just going, this is just happening because reasons.
It gave Steppenwolf a story, but then he died at the end, so it was pointless.
Nah, you can't say that. You can't just say that. Just because somebody's going to die at the end doesn't mean they didn't deserve a story. But it's still interesting to know why they were there in the first place. It's like saying that the Green Mile was pointless because John Coffey dies. What's the point?
Died in the Green Mile?
What's the point in knowing his story? He's going to die at the end anyway, so it can't go anywhere. No. I think this is the big difference between comic books and movies in general. Is that the comic books are limitless in where they can go with their stories, and it just gets so expansive and so convoluted that there's never a way it can't go. But then when you try and go a different way in a movie, like, what the fuck are you doing? This is nonsense.
True. But the movie added more story that Steppenwolf doesn't even have. So if the issue is that you can't get enough story, why are you adding more bullshit? You know what I mean?
It's just a different universe. They did it with the Star Trek movies. I remember when the first Star Trek movie came out. The first kind of new Star Trek movie back in 2009, I think. The first one with Chris Pine as Kirk. When that movie came out, my dad is a big Star Trek fan. He saw the trailer and he was like, what's that? He said, that looks absolutely shite. They've got Kirk knowing Spock before they should know him. He's like, that's bullshit. I'm not watching that. And he watched it because I sat and I said, Dad, you need to watch this with me. And we watched it. And by the end of the film, he turned to me and he went, well, son, that was fucking brilliant. And I think it's just a way of translating or changing material to make it more entertaining, or at least different. I mean, what's the point in watching stuff where you know everything that's going to happen anyway? To me, that would be boring. Like if everything was to play out exactly the way it did in comic books, as a comic book fan, I'd be annoyed. I'd be bored. Like, well, I knew it was.
Just personally, I would enjoy it. Just seeing like what I've seen on pages brought to life, and then for everyone to see. So, because no one reads comic books, so you're a fan by yourself when you like comics. So when it's brought to everyone, you're thinking everyone's going to see what I've seen. Everyone's going to enjoy these characters I enjoy, and then they change it, and you're like, well, what's the point?
But that's again, it just illustrates a kind of a general difference between movie fans and comic book fans. I think the DC and Marvel universes are doing something to try and bring these kind of mediums together, but it can never just be exactly the same. Otherwise, you'll lose the interest of the core fan base.
Hardcore fans, yeah. But like I said earlier, Marvel sticks close to its source material, and it has the much bigger fan base, the much bigger general audience, it has a much bigger everything in the cinematic universe, and it stays closer. And I think that's the mistake that DC is making, is that they're trying to guess what fans want and what general audiences want instead of what it should be.
It could just be they're trying to differentiate themselves from Marvel. If they were to come out and do the same as Marvel by sticking to source material, pretty much they would just go, they're just copying Marvel. By doing it this way, they can say, well, they're not just copying Marvel.
I get what you're saying, but the best-selling superheroes of all time are Batman and Superman. So that proves that they've got a fan base and people want to see them more than any other superhero. So do them justice and you'll get money, by far.
Here's a weird thing that happened to me. My Batman has always been Michael Keaton. He's always been my favorite Batman. He was Batman when I was a kid. He's the one that is in my kind of deep soul, and he's my Batman. After watching Justice League, I think Ben Affleck's my new Batman.
I sort of break it down like I have a Batman I like for appearances, and then a Batman who was played better by someone else, because you can look good without respecting the character.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of appearance, Ben Affleck is the best by far. He's tall, he's intimidating, like he's the same height as Superman. He's a big intimidating guy, but he didn't play the character well. So I would probably give that to that blonde guy from Top Gun that I've forgotten the name of.
Val Kilmer.
That's the one.
Jinx, buy me a Coke. Well, personally, I don't. We're going to go far too much into other movies here. I don't want to do that. But I think the point is, Zack Snyder is obviously a very unique. He's obviously got a very unique vision in the way he wants his movies to feel and look.
Yeah.
It could just be that, like in your opinion, it was probably the wrong decision to give these films to him in the first place because of his desire to put things out the way that he wants them. I
think Zack Snyder's great. I mean, he done Watchmen such justice. I'm in love with Watchmen. Watchmen is amazing, and I did read the comics for that as well, and it's still amazing. He actually changed a few things, and the things he changed, you were like, you know what, good, because that sucked. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think it was the best director to give it to, and I just don't understand what he's doing now. I think he's because DC's got such a massive story and it's so convoluted. He's just bringing the one that he wants people to see instead of what it should be.
I suppose so is anybody that ever writes a DC comic.
Yeah, true. But they have to stick to the rules unless they set it on another Earth, and it's usually stated. And he's clearly setting it somewhere else, but I just don't like how he's treating the characters. Like Batman killing people, Superman being their Jesus and answer to everything.
I have to say, when I seen Batman smash a guy's face into the concrete in I think it was Batman versus Superman.
Yeah,
I was like, yes, this is something I want to see.
I haven't seen that.
Well, let's remember this actually.
But I didn't like the film. I just want to say that I didn't like Batman versus Superman. Apparently, the extended cut is much better.
I've heard
I'm seeing a pattern here with Snyder. I wonder if there's an extended cut going to come with Watchmen. It's going to be like 18 hours long. You sit with a colostomy bag.
There is like a 4-hour version of Watchmen, and I'd watch it.
I've got the Rorschach face, and it opens up with a 2-disc edition. I don't know if it's in that. I'll need to check that. And maybe another episode for us to do is Watchmen.
I love Watchmen.
Watchmen's good. See, talking about Batman, let's remember that the Batman that we're seeing in Dawn of Justice is the Christian Bale Batman, just played by Ben Affleck. It's the same Batman because they offered Christian Bale the money to come back and do that Batman, and he was like, not a chance.
You say it's the same Batman, but it's got a different scriptwriter and a different actor playing him totally differently. So it's not really. What
I mean is, though, when we think of the Dark Knight Rises and Batman Begins, we need to think this has happened in the same universe and the same time as what we've just seen with Zack Snyder. So when the Joker shows up to speak to Batman, like a lot's happened since Dark Knight, but it's the same Joker from Dark Knight, even though it's completely different. It's the same Joker. So we know that Ra's al Ghul is actually dead. Where we are in Zack Snyder's universe, Ra's al Ghul's dead because Batman killed him, and Batman Begins. So that is the same Batman, just played by someone else. So if Christian Bale had continued on as Batman, I think it would have brought something more to the table to me. And I know you say, well, we hate Christian Bale. For me, it was a new take on Batman, and I actually really enjoyed it. I remember leaving this because this is how it worked for me. Batman Begins came out, and I was like, I'll probably see it. Dark Knight came out, I went and saw it and was like, that is unbelievable. I went back and watched Batman Begins and was like, amazing. And then I watched The Dark Knight Rises and was like, okay. So
I think that's the world's consensus of the Dark Knight Rising is
well, all right.
Everybody watches it looking like Robert De Niro.
Heather Dowse, our exclusive YouTube member, says, do me a favor and give Aaron a shout out. He's like so want to be a YouTuber.
Aaron is 7 years old. He's my wee nephew. Hi Aaron. You can be a YouTuber if you want to be. If anybody can prove that, it's Kevin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, go follow Aaron when he creates a channel. We'll get his deets and we'll put it up on the show. Again, that's the joy of watching us live, guys. For you guys that are at home listening on Spotify, after the fact, if you guys come to YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, follow us. You can see when our shows go live. You can come on and be heard, and we'll kind of go back and forth with you. And you also could be able to see us. You can also see us in the archives as well. If you're listening now, stop, go to your YouTube app, pull it up, and you'll see us. Hi, see, told you could see us. So back to the content here. So, yep, I think as you were saying, sorry, J-Mac.
I wanted to move things along a wee bit, and I wanted to talk about Aquaman. Now, Aquaman was introduced in this movie and then got his own standalone film, which is really unusual for the comic book franchise movies. Marvel, they introduce all the characters in their own movies first, then bring them together in the Avengers movies. Now, Aquaman, I really liked, right? I really liked Jason Momoa playing the character. I have, however, seen the original Aquaman and how ridiculously different they actually are. What's your opinion on Momoa as Aquaman?
Well, I used to be like really like diehard and they need to look exactly like how they look in the comics, but I don't feel like that anymore. So I'm more open to different races and different sexes playing the superheroes I love, just so long as they can play the superhero well, the morals he stands for, and how we've grown to know him. And Momoa as Aquaman, I am fine with. I think he's good.
I think you hate Momoa, really.
You can't.
Mate,
the guy
he was made in a lab.
Just he is. He's just a specimen of man.
He is.
I mean, just take Aqua off him. He's still all man. No,
I would watch that if there was a film just called Man, and it was
Man with him. It's just him throwing axes into wood all day, and just doing man stuff,
throwing it into the water and stuff. Yeah,
sure. We have
drinking petrol and
Heather Dow is actually giving us emojis of
Jason Momoa.
Yeah.
Good looking guy. He is a good looking guy.
Feel free to get him on for a chat.
To be fair,
absolutely.
I think if he asked me, I'd give him one.
Yeah. I mean,
he's got the hair if you turn him round.
And if you deny him, I think it's going to happen anyway.
Hey, by the way, which kind of relates to it.
That's a bit.
But here's the thing, right? Well, you guys have seen Aquaman and you love Aquaman, right?
I've never seen Aquaman.
I haven't watched Aquaman, but I like Jason Momoa.
Yeah, for me, right? Aquaman will always just be that Family Guy skit where there's a girl getting...
Absolutely.
And he's like, I
hope you don't like... It's like, I hope you like fish because there's like 5 of them coming. Help me right now. He throws a starfish at him. He's like, oh, you're going to hate what I just did if you don't like starfish.
I can't get out the water.
It's so funny.
I did like that sketch a lot, but they haven't even started to unpack Aquaman. He's horrific. He's one of the ones you don't want to go up against. Like he could cause a flood if he wanted to, but it's not been shown in the movies, and it probably never will. But
so can the sticky bandits, the wet bandits. Fuck that up.
The wet bandits.
Damn it!
Don't know who that is.
Thing. Home Alone 1 and 2.
I watched that film half with my eyes half shut. But at the end of the Justice League movie, you see that the whole world's a desert. I reckon that's probably Aquaman that's done that. He's probably on Superman. Yes, which he can also do. And he's really messed up. He's been seen in comics flooding and just bringing sharks in to eat people when he can't be bothered. They bring them right in, and it's horrific if you think about actually facing a guy that could do that. But it's never properly represented. So.
And he couldn't have got a shark to eat Amber Heard.
I would have been cool.
I think he's right at home in the Justice League. There's not many roles that you couldn't get Jason Momoa to play when it comes to being badass.
I don't know if you could search a picture or if anyone listening is that curious. There's a DC hero called Lobo, right?
Lobo, I know Lobo. Lobo was a horribly violent, nasty piece of shit.
He looks exactly like Jason Momoa.
He does, man.
That's who Jason Momoa should have played.
My brother had Lobo comics when I was a kid, and I remember actually the front cover of one of them terrified me, and it was Lobo standing over Santa Claus' dead body. You probably
Right.
know it.
Yeah.
I remember that, like, it was burned into my psyche, man. That Lobo. Ah, man, that's amazing.
He's aware he looks exactly like Lobo. When he got the phone call, he thought, it's the Lobo phone call. That never happened. And I think they've really messed up that opportunity. He is Lobo.
Also, it could have been Eric Draven in the remake of The Crow. Just saying.
He's a bit muscular, though.
That doesn't matter. It's him. It's Jason Momoa, man. It would look amazing.
Yeah,
could you imagine him walking through with the crow flying over his shoulder? Fuck! That'd be amazing.
Yeah, no,
that's absolutely Lobo.
Yeah, Lobo.
So while I like him as Aquaman, they've missed a huge opportunity there because
we just need to call him Jomo. His name's Jomo for now on.
Jomo. Like I said, he thought he was getting the Lobo role. He was like, this is the Lobo phone call I've been waiting. And then they were like, Aquaman.
Imagine being that confident as an actor. You can just be sitting smoking a cigar with your feet up, just like the phone rings. So who's on the phone? It's Marvel. This will be the Lobo call. Want me to be a fish guy?
I mean, I'll do it. It's just
the name Aquaman. To me, it sounds like the guy that. Do you know what it does? It sounds like the guy that comes in while you're in the swimming and goes, right, guys, and blows his whistle and goes, who's ready to do some dancing with Aquaman?
It sounds like a company name for a window cleaner. Do you know what I mean? It's not. It's a bit of a naff superhero name.
If you could give him a name, what would it be? If you could rename Aquaman, looking like Jason Momoa, what would it be?
I'd probably call him just King of Atlantis or something simple like that.
Seaman.
That's a great one.
I'd
call him Hammerhead.
There's a guy called Hammerhead already.
He's got a trident. I'd call him Go Fork Yourself.
Oh, that's a good one. That sounds like it would sell. I'm writing this down.
What Hammerhead, is he not in Biker Mice?
Oh my god. We are going way off track with that one.
Yeah, that's way off. Hammerhead was in Street Sharks, and he was also one of Kingpin's lackeys. Waiting for the Hollywood remake of that one.
I'm done.
Street Sharks. What's wrong with Street Sharks? That's the best show.
What was it? What street was it? A street in Atlantis?
Jesus Christ.
But Hammerhead was also one of the goons that Kingpin has in Spider-Man, so DC couldn't use that name.
Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. Now, as pleasing as she is to look at, I think she's possibly one of the worst actresses in modern times. Especially there's one moment in this movie that tells me that. Excuse me. It's after they bring back Superman and he starts to flip out, and she goes, "Kal-El, no." There was zero emotion in that. It was like she. I can't even describe how bad she read that line. And I find her just very meh.
I think she was reading it to say, like, is this the right line? And then the director was like, it's fine.
It wasn't loud enough. It wasn't emotional. It just didn't have enough oomph behind it for her to actually mean it. It's like she was like, Kal-El, no, but I don't like these guys very much anyway.
Yeah, go for it secretly.
Better in, son.
That was actually one of my favorite character moments, though. And it made me realize that Zack Snyder knows exactly these characters, because there's nothing more important to Wonder Woman than family and where you come from. So while everyone else is like, Clark, no, she's like, Kal-El, because you're the last Kryptonian. That should be the most important thing in your life, because me being a Themysciran is the most important thing in my life.
Yeah.
So that showed me he knew exactly what was going on, that she wasn't calling him Clark, and she wasn't like, this is your home. She was like, you're the last Kryptonian, Kal-El. So that was a good character moment.
We're kind of touching on Superman. Obviously, this is when he returns from the dead, which, by the way, is like 2 hours into the movie, which is cool, right?
2.5.
Right. So when he comes back, now I did want to ask you a lot about the Superman character, right? So he comes back and he's all like, "Do you know what? I'm raging." So he starts to try and do in his pals. And this is why.
I don't know why. I don't have any answers. In the comics, when Doomsday kills Superman, he is immediately replaced by 4 other Supermen that people had made as fail-safes if Superman ever died. So Lex Luthor had one made, like everyone had one ready to go. And then he dies, so 4 ones show up.
Stupid.
Yeah.
That's stupid.
That is one of the worst stories I've read. It's like right after one of the best stories, they just threw in with this 4 Superman stories, and it was terrible.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
Well,
but
he comes back and he's raging.
I don't know why he done that. I don't know if they just wanted to show how strong he is, how fast he is. I don't know.
Well, it did that. It's a shame that he can't be that strong when he's fighting the bad guys.
It could just be it could just be that he obviously he's been dead. He's just come back to life. He's essentially like he's almost like a Superman, but in a super baby's mind at that point, right? So he doesn't know what the fuck is going on, but he looks at these people and sees that these are pretty strong folks. They're all standing and staring at me.
Yeah, because he's scanning them.
Maybe they're here to kill me. He doesn't know that it was them that brought them back. So he's like, maybe they're here to kill me. So he just flips out, does all his stuff. And Cyborg, his situation didn't help with his automatic defense system thing. Now that scene, I remember seeing that in the original cut when I tried to watch it when it first came out. I didn't finish it, but that scene just made me sad. I don't know. It just didn't look great. It didn't feel right. I much preferred it in this one, although it's not too different. Even the way Superman first appears in the sky, just that slight difference in how he appears changes the feeling of the whole situation.
Yeah,
because I think in the original, in the first one, Justice League, I'm just going to keep calling it that because I think I've just coined a good little term. In Justice League, you kind of see him floating in the sky, then he just does some kind of really cartoonish move. But in this one, he's just floating very still, and that image was kind of goosebumpy. There was a couple of moments in the film that really got me. That was one of them. I think that scene looked great. I liked the bit with the Flash where he was like, I'm gonna kind of run past him and do whatever, and then he just looks at Superman. Superman's like that.
Hell no.
But I don't like Henry Cavill's face at that point. It's just like he does that a few times. Yeah. But I like that moment, and no, I thought the fight scene was great, and I'm glad they got rid of the "do you bleed" shit. That was I'm so glad they got rid of that, and the fact that Batman was like, oh, well, something's bleeding. It's like that's not Batman. He doesn't make jokes.
That's the
and that's me as a layman. As a layman, I don't remember Batman ever really saying anything particularly funny.
No, you're right, but that's where I'm coming to, where he's ruining characters by having Batman kill someone. Everyone knows these characters already, and he's just totally doing a 360 on them for that, a 180, sorry, for his own sake.
See, when
if I did a 360, I'd go completely around and end up back where I started.
Exactly.
Kevin, what's that from?
Exactly.
That's the last Action Hero.
Yeah.
See, here's the thing for you, right? See, when Superman goes up, this to kind of explain that scene, when he goes straight up out of the earth and he stays still and he's looking at the sun and whatnot in the earth. He's wearing the black suit. Yes. And you probably agree with this, Damian. The black suit is actually it's a healing suit, and he's absorbing power from like the sun and all that. So he's healing. So that's why he doesn't travel fast. He just goes up, and he's wearing the black suit for that reason. He stays there because he's recharging.
I hadn't thought about that, but that seems a bit.
Do you know? I like that. I actually knew that. I can't remember where I heard it. It was after watching that film. I just happened to come across because I've watched so many reviews of it and people talking about it. And that image, like, I remember when he first kind of went up and he was in front of the sun like that, you know, and I was thinking, who's he doing that pose for? That was the first thing that went through my mind was, who's he posing for? There's nobody there to see him doing that cool
I
thing.
thought it was just Jesus Christ imagery, because in this film, they have mistaken Superman for Christ and Batman for Punisher. And I'm confused as to why I'm watching it.
but that moment, obviously, that's him taking in as much as he can. If he's sitting like that, these bits aren't going to get the sunlight. Do you know what I mean? Just to go back to what Kev was saying, it's a healing
Mhm.
suit, so he's taking in as much as he possibly can. But that fucking cape's going to get in the way. I'd get rid of that shit right away. You know? But
I think personally, there's a alternative Earth Justice League. They're called the Justice Lords, and they dress as everyone dresses in this show. Superman's in black, everyone's in black. No, Flash isn't. And the Justice Lords go around killing people, every single one of them. And they turn out to be bad guys. And I think that's what Zack Snyder was actually going for.
Well, here's the thing. They do. And again, this is what I was wondering what can I ask you about, Damien? So we see a lot of like evil Superman in this Justice League. First off, he comes back and he's trying to kill all his pals. And then we see in some of the visions that the Batman has it was actually Cyborg, that Superman, he's like, oh no, Lois Lane's all burnt to a crisp. So he's like, I'm gone mental, and just like starts killing everybody. And then at the end, we're seeing that Superman's a bad guy and they're teaming with the Joker. Now, when we switch over to the Justice League, what is it? The games 1 and 2 and Injustice 1 and 2. Superman is a bad guy in that.
Yes.
So Superman, does he turn bad in the source material?
No.
Right. Oh well, then.
There is
That's
no.
that answered.
I would say there is no true 100% start to finish story for any one of these superheroes. But what there is there's a general character, and the powers always remain the same. This was leading to Injustice, and there is old interviews online where everything is leading towards Injustice, because the Injustice games are the most successful games DC's ever had, excluding Batman games, because Batman always sells like fuck for whatever reason.
Even I'm not a gamer, Kevin, I'll tell you this. But even I was a massive fan of the Batman Begins game on the PS2.
That was amazing. I loved that game. My favorite Batman game of all time.
You look at every other DC game, right? You got like those ones you're talking about. They barely break like 500,000. There it is. But Arkham Asylum broke like 1.5 million in the first 30 days of its release. So they know Batman sells, and this was the first game they ever had where everyone else sold as well, not just Batman. So everything was leading towards Injustice, but even that's being done wrong. So I don't know what he's playing at. He just wants to make what he wants to make.
Well, isn't that an artist's prerogative? They just make what they want to make.
I wouldn't agree with that if it's a licensed property. That's like me going like, oh, Kevin, you're beautiful. I want you to be my model. And then I paint like Chris Hemsworth and be like, I just wanted to change a few things. You could be more beautiful if you were more like Chris Hemsworth. I just don't agree with that. I'd be pissed. You know,
I'm trying to think. I mean, I don't have anything. The only thing that I know a lot about is probably Bruce Lee, right? I know a lot about Bruce Lee. I grew up watching his movies. The only thing that I can think of where I know that it's absolute nonsense, but I still like it, is the film Dragon, the Bruce Lee story.
Yes.
That's all Hollywood shite. Most of the film, I would say 60% of that film is untrue. But I still enjoy the film. You know, I can look at what the filmmakers they were trying to make something that was entertaining to the masses, and I appreciate it.
If you imagine it more like, imagine you're the only guy that knows Bruce Lee, right? No one else knows Bruce Lee. You always try to get people into him, and no one's like for it because it's just not their thing. And then Hollywood finally are going to make a thing about Bruce Lee, and you're like, oh my god, everyone's going to get to know the Bruce Lee that I know. And then they release that Dragon film. It's going to sting so much more when they do all that shit wrong, instead of you just being like, I still enjoy it. Everyone knows that's not what happened. You know, everyone now thinks that is Bruce Lee, and that's frustrating.
For me, it was Ready Player One. It was my favorite book. Remember, I even told you to read it before the movie came out, and then it came out, and I'm like, and then I was like, because I used to always debate this with Damien back and forth. But can you just accept it for what it is and enjoy it? You can see the character on the screen, and that. He's like, no. And then I was like, after I watched Ready Player One, I was like, I get it, because then people come to me and go, "Have you seen Ready Player One?" I'm like, "No, I've read the book." "Oh, it's a class movie." I'm like, but it'd be better if you read the book, or if
Yeah.
they made the book into a movie, because
Oh.
it's better. It's so
It is
better.
better. And even though it does have worse storylines, it is usually so much better, especially the ones they adapt.
Ben, you're an asshole. But we love you.
Ben Garnham says, "Rest in peace, Prince Philip." Thanks, Ben.
Yeah.
Again, guys, this is why you tune into the YouTube show. You can
he's
He's
like-
the first, and I knew it was going to happen. I found out Prince Philip had died, and I went on to Facebook, and within 2 finger lengths of a scroll, there was a meme, and guess who it was? Good old Ben Garnham.
He was on this show. You can check out in the archives. Actually, this was when lockdown first began. You can.
This
check
is a
him
guy
out.
who gives zero fucks about what he puts on Facebook. He's a Facebook jail veteran, and he does not care, and it's very refreshing.
Exactly.
He's like the Emperor Palpatine of the real world, though, eh? Prince Philip.
That was what he posted. It was he posted Palpatine. I can't take it anymore. Rest in peace, Prince Philip.
That's us
Oh,
demonetized.
Teen Wolf's dad.
Oh yeah, I forgot about
Teen
that.
Wolf's dad's dead.
Teen
No
Wolf.
fucking way. Teen Wolf. Ben? Are you talking the original Teen Wolf, the Michael J. Fox? I thought his dad died ages ago. Anyway,
Michael J. Fox, or
he'll answer that. Yeah, he'll answer that in a second. If you've never seen Teen Wolf, by the way, watch it. It's class.
I've seen the old one with
Yeah.
Michael J. Fox.
yes, yeah, that one.
That's the one I'm talking about. And by the way, underrated soundtrack. I discovered that recently. Damn, it is him. It is him. Oh, rest in peace. Random guy's name. Can't remember.
Was on Screen Dad. Oh well,
Shit.
unfortunate. So we were talking there about the adaptation
first.
into the movie. Yeah. So
Yeah.
like you said, Damien, you I mean, it's happened a lot for you because you love the comic book and the graphic novels of
Yeah,
many
I've,
different things.
Refused to watch them. Like I think I said that earlier. I haven't watched any since. I haven't watched Green Lantern, but ever since they released Green Lantern, I haven't watched any. So,
Well, there is a lantern in this movie. How did you
which
feel that went?
I hated that, man. That was so shit.
Why? It was only there for like 4.5 seconds. How could you
Right.
hate
Why?
something so quickly?
That's why.
The Green Lantern, right? They have the ring, and you can make anything you can imagine, right? So yeah, Hal Jordan's got the ring. You know, he's making a plane flying into people and big fists to crush people, and then this guy's just floating around shooting people with it. And it's not even a function the ring has. But obviously Zack Snyder was just like, fuck it, just have him shooting people with it. Just give him a fucking gun then. That's so much faster. Like if he had been flying around with like a minigun that the enemies had, just fucking use one of those.
Yeah.
And just mow them down from the air. But instead of zapping them and it's killing them really
Yeah.
slowly. That was shit.
And he got his hand cut off as well, and the ring kind of floated.
Yeah, I like that. I was like, ha. So you get
It's like he goes to grab it. Could you imagine if Darkseid had actually got the ring? That would have been big trouble, right?
I would not have taken to him. It's not.
Would it not?
No.
Hmm.
Darkseid also has a thing called the Mega Force, which is why he looks like a stone monster, and you can't layer stuff on top of that. So,
Well, you
So
can
do
in
you-
Zack Snyder's movie.
apparently,
What do you think of the visual effects in the film?
they were fantastic. I mean, Zack Snyder's a great filmmaker. His effects are great. His cinematography is great. His use of slow mo is great. He can go a bit overboard with it, but he's
I
great
bet.
at what he does.
I bet.
I don't know whether to blame him or the scriptwriter for how I feel, or even just Warner Brothers in general. But if Warner Brothers stopped that getting released, I'm kind of on their side.
Slow-mo, the slow-mo stuff, I mean, you look back at Watchmen, there's a lot of it in there as well.
Yeah.
I think it's very much a Snyder stamp.
Yeah, he uses it to great effect though, because movies now, like I really like movies, but they glaze past a lot of details really fast and just they don't emphasize things, and that's what Zack Snyder's slow-mo is great at. Emphasizes points that need emphasized.
Mhm.
Takes a bit more time so everyone catches it. I mean, no one in Watchmen watched it and go, "Oh no, I didn't notice the bloodstain hit the badge." No, you noticed that because it was fucking slowed down. You know? But but yeah, I think Zack Snyder's a really good director. I don't know where this has went wrong. I don't know if it's even not his fault at this point. I don't know.
Well, the thing about this though, being Snyder's cut, is this is all on him now. This is where he got to say, you know what,
Like-
this is what I wanted to do. So
You say that, but like Steppenwolf, for example, all those scenes had already been shot for him, and it's maybe impossible to put like a 5'10" guy in there instead of a 7'8" monster.
I suppose he got that new armor, which I thought was really cool.
I loved that. Although when I first seen it, I was like, "Oh, that's quite cool." And then the first thing I thought of was Shredder in the newest Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, the Michael Bay one. Was it Michael Bay?
I haven't watched that.
It was Michael Bay.
Aye, and that's and so that made me not like it a bit more. But then I started liking it again, and I love the Steppenwolf look. I think he's a threatening bad guy, and fuck you. I know I look like Ron Perlman. It's not my fault. But here we go.
It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. I like it. I wish I looked like Ron Perlman for sure.
You look a bit like Charlie Day.
Wow. Nice being on the show. Thanks, guys.
Who's Charlie Day?
He's the squeaky guy from
Pacific Rim.
Horrible Bosses. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
All right.
You know, it's just because he's got a beard. That's pretty much it. He's got brown hair, glasses, and a beard.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, DMX is dead as well. Just for
I heard
fun
about
today.
that. Yeah.
What the fuck's happened today, man? This has been a bit of a shit day.
They didn't want to watch the show.
Maybe I watched Justice League and died of boredom.
Right.
Well, let's look at some of the differences that really stood out. That were like, right, the thing that made you go, right, this is cool. This is something that if you were to say to one of your friends, you need to check out the new Justice League because what those kind of things you would say. For me, it would be that, you know, Steppenwolf has had a bit of a makeover and he looks like something quite intimidating now.
Seeing the pictures, he looks more accurate in the Whedon version than he does in the Snyder version. Like,
does that tells me one thing, that the original was lame.
The original Steppenwolf, he was, because he was just the leader of the Parademons. And he never sets foot on Earth. He just stays at Apocalypse and he's like, Parademons are ready when you need them.
I really like the look of the demons.
They're very accurate looking. I was happy
actually,
with the Parademons.
I made a point of mentioning to my wife when we were watching it. I says, those are fucking horrible looking things. They're just nasty looking.
Their backstories are pretty horrific too. They're whatever world Darkseid's taken over, he's just taken a whole bunch and tortured them to the point they just want to follow orders and then like put stuff on them to make them look like that. And then instead Steppenwolf's job to tell them what to do. That other guy that Steppenwolf kept talking to, it's his job to torture them. But I don't know if that's what will happen in the extended universe.
We shall see.
That other guy, I think he's the number 2 to Darkseid.
I know Steppenwolf's Darkseid's uncle, which is not in that movie, but he is. I can't remember what the other guy is, to be honest. These guys you'll never see in flashbacks or whenever Darkseid goes back and they're just like rubbing their hands together like Igor are waiting for him.
Yeah, that doesn't quite work out well for old bit Steppenwolf. And you know, he started off strong. He came in, and every time that he went for one of the wee boxes, the people are just like that. You know,
for me, actually, the visual effects I mentioned a minute ago, for the most part, they're excellent. I think the battle on Themyscira is probably the weakest in the entire film for me. Yeah. I think the rest of it holds up really, really well, but I think that it doesn't do it for me. I don't know if it's to do with the fact that I think when you try and do a lot of CG effects that take place in daylight hours, it always makes it look a bit more cartoonish. It's easy to play with it a little bit more when it's darker. So I think that's why the Battle of Themyscira looked a bit more cartoonish. It still looked a lot better than it did in the Justice League, but it's still a bit cartoony. That's what I was going to say. that's where I was at.
But Steppenwolf is much more a Loki type character. Like that's how he should look, like Loki from Marvel.
Yeah,
and he shouldn't be leading like any sort of assault. Steppenwolf would be terrible at that.
Why did they choose Steppenwolf? Why do you think that was the villain that they chose to lead the pack of the antagonist
He
army.
has a cool helmet, maybe. Yeah, because those horns he has.
So
is
that,
his
it's because I've got
helmet.
the window open.
Oh yeah, there you go. Maybe because he has a cool helmet. I mean, he really only leads to parademons. Maybe it's because he leads to parademons in the comics, or maybe he just opened a comic and threw a dart at it and said, "You're the main villain." For all the accuracy it's got.
Who would you have chosen?
Darkseid.
Just Darkseid.
Well, he came to Earth, got beat, and then he sends like a weaker guy who then gets beat. And I'm like, well, thanks for wasting my time with this story.
I want to see Nuclear Man for Superman 4 make a comeback.
Oh yeah, that guy was just made for the movie.
Destroy Superman now. What's that?
That guy was only made for the movie. It was never.
I know. It's so ridiculous. Have you ever watched the Honest? Do you ever see the Honest trailer for Superman 4?
No.
Honest. Have you ever seen Honest trailers?
Yeah, I've seen a few of those for games though.
They did one for Superman 4, and it was amazing. Right? It just obviously Superman 4 is the worst Superman film ever. I remember really enjoying it when I was a kid, but that's because I was a kid and kids are stupid.
Just a mark for Superman.
Aye, like Superman had new powers, like rebuilding the wall of China with his eyes. But when he was at the end of every Honest trailer, they're like starring, and they always do a slight twist on who actually played the person. So it was when it came to him, they were like starring Dolph Lundgren-ish. And he's like, oh, okay, but no. I've got a wee soft spot for Nuclear Man, even though he was made up for the film. So the story arcs, I think that the biggest changes in story arcs were for the Flash and Cyborg. Cyborg essentially was mostly cut from the Justice League.
I think I know that Joss Whedon's a big fan of the comics, and he knows that Cyborg was never in the Justice League, so that's probably why he cut most of his time on screen.
So where did it come from then? Where did the idea of Cyborg being there? I mean, I think I've seen the artist renditions of Cyborg in the Justice League. Where did that come from? Has that only been since the movie, or?
Yeah, there was a new Justice League after the old Justice League died in the comics and all that. He was in that, but he was never in that with like these original members. And I don't want to say anything like offensive, but I think they were just filling, were they ticking a box?
They were ticking a box. We can say that because we're at a point now where every major film studio has to do that. They have to make sure that they do have characters in there that represent certain demographics, and that's just the way films are going to be from now on. And to a certain extent, you can understand it. I think it's absolute overkill sometimes. Like the new rules for Oscars are fucking horrendous. They're ridiculous. I don't know if you know about the new rules for even being able to be nominated for an Oscar, but if you don't know it, you should look into it. It's the most insulting thing that I could imagine you could ever look at as a filmmaker. I'm not even going to go into it, but you can look into it if you want. I'm not just talking to you, Damien. I'm talking to anybody that's listening, or one of you out there. There's the new rules that are in place for being only nominated for an Oscar, really, in my opinion, stifle the ability of filmmakers and artists to make the projects that they set out to make. I understand that there has to be more representation for minorities and LGBT stuff like that. That is absolutely fine. But to make it a rule that to even be considered for an Oscar, you have to have so many of these elements in your movie, that completely destroys the reason for making a film and the reason for being an artist. An artist makes original things that they want to make and they want people to see. And to force these rules on them to get Oscars for accolades and just to give them credibility, for me, I didn't watch the Oscars this year, which is very unlike me. I tend to watch it every year because I really enjoy it, and I like to have little bets with myself about who's going to win and who's going to lose and who I'd like to see winning. I didn't boycott it. I didn't
you hear
boycott
Kevin
it.
laughing in the background, by the way. Can you hear
No,
that?
no.
He's laughing away while he switches between the two of us.
I'm totally
I didn't mean to you are. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I want to hear the end of your point. But
This is a minor rant. I understand that there is a need for representing. What am I trying to say here? Representation of groups. I understand that. And by the way, I love Cyborg's story in this film. I love the arc of the character. Again, I'm not the comic book fan, so I can't say, oh well, he was never part of the original. I don't give a fuck, really. I don't care. I liked his story in this film. I liked the actor that played him. I did think his skin was the smoothest I've ever seen on a man, and I'd rather see it on a woman. That's the first thing that went through my mind when I seen him. I was like, that guy's skin is amazing. He looks like Michael Jackson got fucking polished. His skin was just, it was fantastic. And I actually said it to my wife. I was like, you ever seen smooth skin like that in a guy? She's like, no, especially no you. That's marriage.
I thought something similar. I was looking at his lips and I was like, why is his lips so like full?
And demonetized.
Wow. But they had very really, defined lips.
Aye, his lips almost look like they've been shaped. It's like they've been airbrushed to be so perfectly angular. They're really angular. That's the word. They're very, really pronounced. But yeah, I loved his story. I loved him playing the story. I loved Joe Morton playing his dad. I loved all of that. I really did. And I wish I could have sat through the entire of the first one so I could compare the two, because from what I've heard, there's very little of him in the original. But that could be down to what you said about them trying to keep it more in line with the original comics by having Steppenwolf look more normal and having Cyborg being a bit of a side character because he wasn't in the original Justice League. But I'm looking at this as a standalone film, and I think that's the way that anybody should look at any film. Is just forget everything else you know. Just sit down and look at this and think, would I enjoy that if I didn't know anything else that previously happened? I did that with RoboCop, with the RoboCop remake, which I detested the idea of it. The fact that there was a RoboCop film that was coming out that was a 12 certificate. I was like, no, RoboCop is probably one of the most violent and disturbing films I've ever seen. Yet we're getting a 12A rated remake of this. But when I sat down to watch it, I just went, right, forget all that, just watch it. And I actually really enjoyed it. Same goes for the Total Recall remake. Again, very, very different. Again, a 12 certificate was for something that was a hard 18 rating before. I think you just have to try and push everything aside and just watch every film for its individuality. Try and say that word again. Individuality.
Which I understand what you're saying there, but then that comes back to like what me and Kevin were saying. Like, we've paid for these before, we've waited for these characters to be brought to screen for everyone, and when they just butcher it, it's not as easy to put it out your mind. And when people are coming to you like, oh, isn't he the coolest? Then you know that he's miles wrong and he's way cooler than that. It stings. Like, I don't know if you'd say like pride or I don't know, but you're just like, no, that's not all right.
Do you ever just think to yourself, does it really matter?
I do think that, but then something in the movie will annoy me, like a little bug thing, and then I will just all collapse from there. I'll build a wall, and the stupid little bug will come and smash it. But especially when they're telling good stories badly, and you're like, well, now you've ruined that story, so you can't go back to it. And it was shite, and it could have been amazing, and it could have been. Darkseid always does his own dirty work. He just takes the parademons with him. Why is he not there? What's he up to?
I'd actually said to Kevin before having you on, I was like, listen, man, I don't know if we should have Damian on because he tends to mince his words a bit too much. No, you don't. That's shite.
Don't believe in mincing words.
He never said that, by the way. You never ever said that.
Absolutely, mate. I was making a joke. So he's making his feelings very clear.
Like, I feel like if I met Zack Snyder, I'd say, like, big fan of everything you do except the DC stuff. I hate the DC stuff. I even liked Sucker Punch, which no one else liked.
I like that.
Yeah, but it gets mashed for some reason.
Yeah, I've never seen that one. I know of it. I've never.
But there was other ways to tick that box we were talking about, and I don't know why they picked Cyborg and they overpowered him and changed stuff. Like his mum was also a scientist at the same place as his dad, and I'm like, why have you changed? What was the need to change that? Why couldn't she also be there? You know, she does die in an explosion in that lab. So and that's what kills Cyborg initially. Why not do that? Why have you changed it so much for no reason? That doesn't add anything to the story. Like,
I think they wanted to make it that the dad was a deadbeat dad. You know, she's the scientist that's got time for her son, and when she's come back from a game, he dies with the mum, and that's why he resents his dad. It's to give him a reason to resent his dad, I think.
He always resented his dad. His mum and his dad used to experiment on him. Intelligence boosting experimentation, which worked and which why he's a genius level IQ, which they did say in the movie. But then they just changed these things, and I'm like, why couldn't he hate his dad with the original story? What did that add? Nothing. I don't know why he done it. So, but it was never in the Justice League. So
your knowledge is fucking terrifying.
No, it's not.
It is if you're anybody else except you.
I have one friend that knows equal amounts.
Well, let's have him stroke her on.
Yeah.
No, man, you're not. It's impressive that the amount of stuff you know is. I mean, I don't know that much about anything, and I'm way older than you.
You know a lot about jousting.
That one thing, honestly, you shag one sheep, you're the sheep shagger. It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
I would like to hear this one thing. What's the one thing you know? I don't know anything about.
I'm going to tell you what happened. Right, every year up until recently, every year in Linlithgow Palace, they've hosted an event. Which is essentially like a medieval games where you take your kids along and you get to see jousting and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, that would be really good for my little kid because he loves the film A Knight's Tale. So I'd like to take him along to that. So I click on the interested button on Facebook. Kevin sees this and instantly just tears me a new one for it. It's like, he likes jousting.
J-Mac is interested in medieval jousting.
Have you made a Photoshop yet of him in full jousting gear?
No, but I will.
Needs to.
In fact, there you go. Kev, just screenshot that.
I love
it. Don't worry, I'll be able to do it.
And you will.
And the best thing is, all I've done was put a laughing face. Like, you know, you hold down the like button and you can react with a laughing face. All I've done was that. And he was like, what?
You laugh at it. You laugh at it. But you do it with a lot of stuff. Like, I'm like, I'd like to go to the Isle of Mull Country Music Festival. You're like, I like country music. I put the cunt. So let's take that out.
Oh, you've just done it, James.
I was worried I was going to do it. I
stopped at the N. It doesn't count.
The algorithm will pick it up. We're getting nothing for this video.
Country. It's not. That's fine. That's fine. Country.
That's a bad one, man. It's a bad one. So I will start to kind of push towards the conclusion of this Zack Snyder's cut of the Justice League. Obviously, I've said that there's a lot of similarities to the Marvel universe, and I think that in order to keep people interested, obviously you've got the cool special effects, you've got the suits, and you've got the superheroes that we all know and love. But you know, how do we keep people interested to come back for more? Because, like I said, we've seen the whole we're going to come here and destroy the world. What? How do you get bigger than that?
You don't. That's end game material. That's a pun that I'm not meaning, but that's end game material. That is what you leave till the end of your story, which is what DC keeps doing wrong. I think I probably shouldn't use that metaphor. They're just throwing everything at all the best stuff they've got. They're throwing it straight away, desperately trying to keep up with Marvel.
Prematurely ejaculating.
Yes. That's what I was.
Is that the one you were going to use?
I was.
You think alike.
But
I think he was going to say but they were blowing their load too early. Is that?
Like a teenager that's had sex for the first time. He's just absolutely going for it, and then just ruining the whole experience for everybody.
Can I just say that? Oh no, I'm not doing it. Right, moving swiftly on. Moving swiftly on.
I think that's kind of what I felt was that, you know, they could have started smaller.
Mhm.
Like, look at the Justice League themselves. They all kind of were recruited into the Justice League, and you kind of got their movies. I don't think you got the Flash movie, and you didn't get the Cyborg one, but you
Which
got the
left far too much on the plate for this movie, because that's 2 origin stories you need to give, as well as 5 brief reminders. Actually, you said Aquaman was out after this, so that's 3 origin stories and 3 reminders. That's a lot to put in one movie.
Yeah,
and it's because they tried to rush it out. And see, in DC, there's about 4 or 5 or 6 like big end game. This is it. This is the end if we don't do something. Storylines. You got Darkseid, you got Doomsday, and they've used 2 of them already. Which I didn't even know they'd used one of them.
Yeah.
and there was Parallax, which was the main bad guy of the Green Lantern movie, and he was a huge issue, like a massive issue. Like there's a full comic series called The Darkest Night, all based on the aftermath of Parallax alone, and they've used that already. And I'm like, what are you doing?
Just so you know, by the way, I liked the Green Lantern. I don't know if any of you guys did.
I haven't watched it.
I liked it.
It's all right. Aye.
Again, I'm an outsider, so I come into these films looking purely for entertainment. I don't look for it to be in keeping with any kind of source material. So I don't care what the film is, but if it entertains me, I'll take it. And I enjoyed the Green Lantern a lot more than a lot of other people did.
Looking at the Justice League, Zack Snyder's one, as a film without any of the source material affecting my opinion, I still wouldn't have enjoyed it. It's these big team up movies, they're essentially buddy cop movies, but with many cops. But there was no bonding moment in this movie. There was no moment where they were like, that's it, they're on the same page now. You know, that doesn't happen. They just win at the end, and you're like, all right, cool.
There's another Teen Wolf reference, and you don't know what it is, and I'm not even going to tell you.
Yeah, like they should have had.
You can look it up later. Win in the end, Teen Wolf.
Win in the end.
Yeah.
They should have had a big like, we're starting to get on the same page now, because that was always the Justice League strength, is that they relied on each other sufficiently, and that's how they got through.
Yeah,
but they just sort of won because Superman was there.
Just this is again moving towards wrapping it up. The end, as we get towards the end. In fact, sorry, just before I say that, does anybody else think that when the shield that they make goes over that area in Russia, it is in Russia, isn't it? That looks like half a testicle.
It does.
It does. It's even got veins. It's even got veins in it.
I didn't understand that he did that. If Steppenwolf is so unbeatable, but whatever.
Exactly. That's the thing.
He's come back for the lunch.
Yeah.
He's so unbeatable that he's made himself
an impenetrable fortress.
No, but he's cocooned himself inside a testicle, which is essentially the most fucking sensitive part of a man's body. You wouldn't want to. I'd cocoon myself in a skull. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Cocoon yourself in something that doesn't look like doing this causes you 8 days of pain.
Yeah.
You know,
8 days at least.
I did like I remember a quick side note here to tell you a story, Jordan, just to kind of give Damian some man points here, right? But before I move on to the next part, I was saying,
I can tell Damian's going to love this.
Oh no! He will. There was a time I was standing talking to Damian, right, just chatting away, and this was back when we were both in wrestling, and it was a common thing for a wrestler to come up and twat you in the balls, right, and go like ha ha ha, and it was funny, right?
You're talking about like a friendly slap. Like that?
No, I'm talking like a proper like wallop, right?
Was it clenched fist?
Oh, just
a kick,
a sore one, right?
Like that's the worst.
A sore one. So Damian's standing there, and I'm standing next to him, and we're chatting about something. Probably what we're chatting about now, right? Something to do with something. I can't remember who it was. Walked up and went wallop right to his stones, right? Right in front of me.
I've not heard that since I was a kid.
Right? But get this though, right? Now I see this all go down right in front of me. He goes wallop to the point when I heard it, I went like this. Oh, like I heard the pain straight up, right? And Damien's standing like this. And I'm like, now the guy's walking away laughing. Damien's just standing there, and I'm like, Damien, did that no hurt? And he's like, yes, but I'm not selling it. I'm not giving him the satisfaction. He stood there and no-sold the pain, so the guy wouldn't get the satisfaction.
Wow.
Yeah, you know what I'm to.
I'm like, I was witnessing Superman. I was like, is this real? Touch him, see if he's real. He's like, I heard the pain. I heard the pain. Right? I was feeling pain just looking at him.
Yeah.
Damien, you'll need to text me your address after this so I can send you my man card.
I wonder what that is.
Just a card.
Just a card.
It was hilarious.
I was worried which story you were going to tell there. There's so many stories.
Especially involving testicles, right? But yeah, so there you go. That's the real Man of Steel. So next time he comes on, I'm introducing him as the Man of Steel.
Man of Steel.
We'll come back to this exact point. So the movie wraps up where, I told you Steppenwolf would fail. Right, that's nice. Maybe if you supported him, maybe
gave him a pat on the back.
Right. The whole time, man, you just gave him nothing but crap. He was trying, right? A wee bit of support would have went a long way, right? Yeah. But so he kind of gets like Hadouken. He gets battered, and on his way through the portal, the final thing that happens, he gets his head crushed, and he gets his head cut off. And just to add, you're peeing. And just to add insult to injury, you're peeing on this show, aren't you? You're no, where's that can? Don't know.
I seen a bottle earlier for sure.
I know. Where's the bottle? That's that. In fact, that's an open. That's on that. Show me the top of that bottle. The
top of the bottle.
Show me that it's no sealed. Fair enough. Put the camera down to your crotch.
That's just inappropriate.
But so he gets his head cut off, and then to add insult to injury, Darkseid crushes it. Right, there's just like a full stop to that character, and then it's like ready the Armada, because we couldn't have all just jumped through that big hoop thing. I mean, I don't have any powers to keep that open and just run into Earth, but we're on our way to Earth. Still no sure where it is. Like,
yeah.
I mean, did he send them the coordinates or what? Because
I reckon so.
They must have, right? So we know that the end is coming now, right? Because they're going to try and destroy the world again, and it kind of leaves it open to what's coming next. So Thanos is on his way, right? But then we see Lex Luthor is back. Now, for me, that felt more of a fan service. I was like, oh, cool. I'm more interested in what Lex Luthor has planned than I am about Big Darkseid. Because we know he's going to get slapped about and sent back packing or killed, right? But Lex Luthor seems like he's crafty. He's going to get someone killed properly. That's kind of how it felt for me. So it was cool to see that he and what's his face? You're a big fan of him. And he's also played by Joe Manganiello.
Yeah, Deathstroke.
Yes. What do you think of Joe Manganiello playing Deathstroke?
I mean, like I said, I'm trying to not fuss myself with appearances, because it should be about who can play the character best and not how they look.
Suppose.
So I've got no opinion. I've not seen him do anything as Deathstroke.
It was cool to see him in there. It's cool to see him in there. He's one of those guys that I think.
Who is that guy, by the way? I recognise him, but I don't know what from.
He's been in a lot of things, like Magic Mike.
Sofia Vergara's husband.
Oh, she's ugly.
He's in True Blood. He's in True Blood. But,
I didn't see that.
So he's kind of aligned with Lex Luthor, and then we see the Joker, who's off of Jim Carrey. Like, we see the Joker with Batman, and he refers to absolutely smashing Robin.
Yes.
Right, which was, I suppose, kind of cool. And then we also hear that Harley Quinn got done in and all by Batman. Again, Batman loves to do folk in, right? Yeah. Killing folk. Just before she died. Just before I killed her. Were you even strangling her? That doesn't seem awfully Batman.
He said she was in his arms, so I'm like, was she on your side or?
in his arms like 10.
She got out one final sentence like a true actress.
Exactly. And so we know that at this point she must be pan bread. So it's cool to see that.
While we're talking about that, it brings up a point I wanted to say. What is the demographic for this film?
I know, because he starts swearing at the end, right?
Me.
Yeah. Like, is it men?
It's me.
In which case, why is he involved in all the cheesy stuff, like origin stories? Because most of us don't care about origin stories, to be honest. We kind of know these characters anyway. So what is the demographic for these films?
We don't. I don't. This is where
but do you need to know it to enjoy something? I mean, like, did you watch the Justice League cartoon?
No.
No, did you watch the Amazing Spider-Man? Like the Spider-Man that everyone watched as a kid, the cartoon.
Probably, but not with any kind of interest.
Most people didn't. We just picked up on their powers as the show went because we didn't really need to know how they got them. The origin stories are for kids that feel like they need to know and other audience members. But if it's just for adults, why even bother including an origin story? Like, Cyborg is so self-explanatory. You don't need to really know anything about him. You're like, Cyborg is a cyborg. Cool. Got it.
I really enjoyed this story, man. I enjoyed that story arc. It was good.
It was the only story arc in the film, I feel. No one developed, changed in the entire film. Only Cyborg came to grips with his powers, and that was it.
No, I think Barry Allen had a decent story arc.
What was it?
But basically going from a boy who's trying to impress his dad to being a guy who actually did. And that's...
But because his dad doesn't know.
But he knows that his dad would be impressed by him if he knew that.
Did his dad kill his mum?
Yes.
Yeah, because he's like, I'm going to prove that you didn't do it. And he's like, stop. I'm like...
Well... Yes, eventually, the night he gets his powers, his dad confesses that he killed his mum. He goes back and smashes up the forensic lab he owns, and then lightning strikes the chemicals and he turns into the Flash. But later on, Reverse Flash says that he done it, and his dad just told him because he was sick of him wasting his time on this case. And it was actually Reverse Flash went back to kill his mum and then trying to stop Barry Allen being born, but getting the time wrong. So, and that's Operation Flashpoint. You probably heard of that story at least.
It would make you beg the question. There's so much source material.
Yes.
So many storylines. Why even bother trying to do this to try and impress the comic book fans?
Well, even with that in mind, they're still ruining good stories. I mean, like the Darkseid, the few times Darkseid came to Earth, because it has only been a few times. It was always for a singular purpose, and it was always a really good story. But now they've made their own one and ruined Darkseid as a character, I feel. Like, no one's going to take him seriously after that.
But they've done their own story, but so did everybody else before that. So it doesn't invalidate the new story any. It just means it's different from the old story. That's what I mean. It's a matter of just looking at things from a different perspective, as opposed to just comparing everything to source material.
Yeah,
source material's there. Source material's there as a source. You know what I mean? Like the source of light on Earth is the sun. But if you went to the sun, you'd be fucked. There's something to be said for taking a little bit of source material and making it work for you.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
When they try and change it and it doesn't work, like I feel that Darkseid did not work in that movie. He came across it about, I'd say Steppenwolf probably could have taken him in that movie. From what we've seen.
Well, yeah. For me, I don't know, because I never seen Darkseid do anything. Really.
Like, did you see him lose a fight? And then Steppenwolf lose a fight. So I'm like, right, cool. You're on par with each other. In fact, it seemed harder to beat Steppenwolf than it did to beat Darkseid.
Yeah, and they were all kind of just waiting on Darkseid arriving. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Do you notice that when he arrives, they're already there waiting on him?
Yeah, and
it's a bit like what you do to me at the start of these fucking live streams.
But about source material, like I'm just telling you how it should be and how it could be better, because if they had followed it. But as a film, it's bad anyway. The main bad guy is shat on the whole movie, and we're supposed to think he's bad and dangerous. I mean, you see his Omega beams once, which is Darkseid's biggest power. You know, the little eye lasers that shoot about all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he killed Batman with those, but we see them once in that movie. Even though there was a huge war, he didn't even use it once. And he has, because that's why he's great. If he didn't have that, he'd look like a wee man. Kind of Steven Seagal looking guy.
Did he run like Steven Seagal?
Possibly.
One thing I liked about the climax of the movie, or the climax before the epilogue, was the
Captain Dave.
The fact that the Batman actually takes pretty much kind of a back seat in the final battle. And I like that. I love that. I love that. See, if Batman had been involved in that final battle properly, I mean, he was there just to kind of distract and keep things away from the main area. That for me is a really clever move.
Yeah, that was always Batman's role when it came to these fights.
And I love that. I love that. I commented on it to my wife. I was like, we were talking about after the film finished. We were still talking about it 2, 3, 4 hours later. That's how much an impression it made on us. And Kevin knows, I'm not the superhero film guy. I'm not. I got so pig sick of them because every fucking film that came out, every 2 months, here's another superhero film. It's like, right, okay, I get it. They used to be special. Now they are just there all the fucking time. So I'm fed up with them and I gave up on them. This film brought me back in. And that's the way I felt about it. I'm not going to argue, really. I'm debating. Well, I'm not going to argue with somebody that says that they didn't like it. Me personally, I liked it. If you didn't, then you've got your own reasons for it. You've obviously got a lot of reasons, more reasons than most people that I would know.
I don't like it as a film anyway. Like, taking it from no source material, it was just a bad film. No character evolved. No character showed any sort of like growth, except Cyborg, who took a back seat anyway and was ultimately useless in the last battle. I mean, Superman just came and made everyone else look like shit. And you're like, you know what? Just leave it to Superman. Just leave.
I do agree with that. I said it to my wife. I was like, could you imagine if they brought Superman in earlier? It would have been boring as fuck. It would have been. Because he just came in, he just showed up and was like, douche, the end.
But as also wrong. Wonder Woman's beaten Superman in so many fights because Superman doesn't know how to fight. He knows how to punch. Because he's super strong. He's never had to learn. But Wonder Woman knows how to fight. So even with the strength difference, she's always been able to take him down. So, but then he just like headbutted her into fucking infinity in this film, and I was like, all right. Because she wouldn't know how to block a headbutt, would she?
She can dodge bullets at the fucking speed of light,
but she can't like put her head down so he breaks his nose instead. No?
But again, this is where I approach it from a different point of view. I go like this, right? You ready? You ready for this? I go like this. Superheroes. They're not fucking real. Don't try and apply real logic to them.
But that's what DC does, and I think that's where they go wrong. Marvel is very half fantasy, half reality, and that works really well for them. And I think that's what DC needs to do. Instead of being like, this is so real, this is the realest thing ever, look, people are dying, I think it should just be like, hey, superheroes, man. You know? That's the kind of feel that DC has anyway. I don't know why they've gone, I know why they've gone dark and gritty, because Batman's their best seller, but it's not the right move. They need to lighten up. These guys should be saving the day, and you should be feeling happy about it, not like I didn't feel happy at the end of that movie. I was like,
just on that note, I mean, I much prefer, again, I seen some of Justice League in 2017-18, whenever I seen it. I seen some of it then and switched it off. I did not like it at all. I sat through the entire 4 hours of this, and I think it looks exponentially better. I like the darker look. I like the darker tones. I like the fact that it doesn't all look like a cartoon. Marvel is very bright and colourful, right? DC is, from what I've seen, a bit more. It's almost monochrome sometimes. You can You can barely see the color, and I love that aspect of it.
You've always loved
Like,
black and white.
I do. I just do. You know what I love about black and white? The thing I love about black and white is that it's an aspect. It's a view of the world that you will never see.
Yes,
and that's what makes it special for me. Like when I see a black and white photograph, I was like, it's like how amazing would it be if I could just open my eyes in the morning and see everything like that. That's why I love black and white. I love monochrome. And it's almost there with a lot of Zack Snyder stuff. It's so close to monochrome with a few elements of strong color thrown in to grab your attention, like with the badge, with the blood, and other things of that ilk. But if you look at the final battle in the Justice League compared to Zack Snyder's one, the whole look of the final battle is different. Because the first one took place under this kind of red, orange, bright glow, but then Zack Snyder's toned it right down to like a really dark blue, almost like a kind of moonlight sort of thing, and I fucking loved that. And I think everything's just down to personal taste, man. I think you're never going to please everybody, and you're going to piss people off who have got more invested in it, which unfortunately for somebody like you is a lower percentage of the population.
That is, but we're just the guys who funded these movies. So fuck us, right?
Yeah, fuck you.
They're basically a Kickstarter. Like, here, give us enough money, we'll make a movie of this. So you buy the merch, you buy the comics, you read it, and then they make a movie and it's not it. And you're like, cheers, that was fucking shit.
Well, see what happens. If the reception has been generally as bad as you yourself has taken it, then there won't be any more.
But I think everyone's compared it to that first Justice League instead of maybe as a film, or because like even the music, like I could break a movie all the way down. There was no diegetic music in it. Like no one was listening to music at any point. Like that is a great filming technique. No one had their own themes except Wonder Woman's, who was just like every time she was on screen. That did get
a bit annoying. I will say that.
Everyone should have their own every time.
Slow motion swinging shit.
They would be like talking, and then when Wonder Woman's on screen, someone in the background. but she didn't even like. No one else had a theme. And it was like, at the end, all the themes should have combined or something along those lines, and music should represent what was happening. But it just used the same boring theme throughout, unless Wonder Woman was on screen. And I was like, this is... Yeah.
I'll do it again.
The movie does it way more than you have already. Just keep going throughout the whole thing. So maybe it's that same
guy. See if they just had that. See if he was in the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, big Vitas. I love Vitas.
He could totally do it as well. I would love that. That would have made it a better movie.
Mate. That would have been class.
And that is the end of the Jibber Jabber podcast.
Oh man, but hurt my face.
Right. So
as a movie, it was just missing so much as a movie alone, and I think it tried to hide how much it was missing by giving you so much to take in with its full 4 hours, so you don't realize how much it's actually missing as a story.
Well, in conclusion, my opinion of it is that I switched the first one off, which was 2 hours long. I switched that off maybe halfway to 2/3 of the way through because it was awful. I watched this entire thing. It might have been over 2 days, but that was through necessity rather than getting bored and having to come back to it. So it tells me that for some reason, I, as the person that I am, really enjoyed this film, right? Am I going to argue with somebody that didn't like it? No. It's like watching The Office. Some people love it, some people hate it. It's the way it is. It's Marmite. But I think it's a really well-made film, and I think it was very well acted by most. I said Gal Gadot is she's like a burnt bit of wood, not even wooden. But other than her, I think it was really well acted. I loved the story. I loved the villain. I found him very threatening up until Superman showed up. Then I was like, yeah, he's shit.
Such a pushover.
Aye. And no, there's every film's got elements about it that are a bit naff. Even the Shawshank Redemption. How the fuck did he stick the poster to the wall again for inside that hole? Nobody knows, right? You can't do it. But you just have to overlook these things. You just have to look at things from a movie point of view and go, it's just the benefit of the doubt. Let's just enjoy it for what it is. I personally loved it. I can't compare it fully to the first one because even after watching this one, I did go onto Amazon Prime and I rented the 2017 version to watch it again. And I got about halfway through and I just kept laughing at it. I kept laughing at it. I just found it just so incomparable to what I'd just seen that for me, that film is probably the best superhero film I've ever seen.
Whoa.
All like hands down the best superhero film I've ever seen, and I'm not even debating. I'm not debating it. I'm not fighting myself on that. I don't have anything else even close to how good that film was in my mind, and I'll sing its praises till the cows come home. But again, I wouldn't argue with you if you didn't like it. It's like Marmite, like I said.
What? Like, out of curiosity, just because you said that, like, what was defining moments in that for you?
For me, like, I very rarely get emotional during superhero movies. It's just something that doesn't happen. Like when Iron Man died, spoiler alert, when Iron Man died in Infinity War.
Iron Man dies?
Yeah. Like you don't know. Fuck. when he dies in Infinity War, I mean, it was kind of sad, but it didn't bother me that much. You know, I wasn't that bothered by it. But see, when Clark Kent and his mum met again in that film, I actually had a tear streaming down my face. And if a film can do that, if a superhero film can do that to me, Kevin will tell you that I'll cry at fucking anything, right? Armageddon, I will cry at Armageddon, right?
This is movie.
Is it? What? Right. So, anyway. If a superhero film can hit me in the feels, then I'll give it any respect. I'll give it all the respect.
Is that because you're a fan of Superman, though?
No, I think it's just for me. It was a visceral moment. It was a moment like I think I kind of put myself in that situation. It's like, how would my mum feel if I'd passed away and then came back? You know,
I know she'd be like, "Fucking hell."
No, my mum doesn't swear. She went, golly gosh. But moments like that, and there was one other moment in the film where I felt close to that.
Because I don't think the film made like a specific effort to show you how the mum felt, and like in her absence of Clark, the only time she spoke her feelings, it wasn't even her; it was Martian Manhunter. That's
the one thing I was going to talk about. That's the one part I would take out. I did not see the point in the Martian Manhunter.
I don't either.
It's that and Gal Gadot's performance, not the character. That and Gal Gadot's performance, I would take out of that film. I think it's because I'm not a comic book fan. When he showed up and he walked out of the flat and he turned into this thing, I was like, "Who the fuck is that?" And my wife was like, "Who the fuck is that?" I'm like, "Who the fuck is that?" None of us knew who that was meant to be. And then he showed up at the end again with Ben Affleck looking strangely a lot slimmer than he did earlier on in the movie. He was so chiseled at that moment. I was like, damn, Ben Affleck hot. But I would take the Martian Manhunter out of the film completely. I think that was there as a fan service that probably for you did not land.
It didn't land because
guy was there the whole time.
Look like him.
He also was there the whole time and didn't help.
Yes, and he could have helped because he's very strong.
I need to call you out on something though. You said earlier on, it's like the person playing that character doesn't have to look like him.
No, but it's more a crop at the design that they chose to put in that film. See, because Martian Manhunter is just a green man. So why have they
Walk Now?
Yeah, he's like just you could have just painted the guy green, and that would have been fine. But instead, they gave him like Nightcrawler designs all over his face, and like he looked super animated, like a transformer. And I'm like, why have you done that? He's just a green guy. Why have you confused that so badly? So I did not like the design. He's got the worst secret name ever. His secret name, like his normal life name, is John Johns, and it's like, wow, good fucking job. No one will ever know.
Oh god. Damn.
So, in closing, I've given you my opinion. I loved it. It's the best superhero film I've ever seen. Kevin, where is it for you?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong, there are better superhero movies for me, like the original Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire. For me, I'll defend that. But I really enjoyed it. I watched it going, but I did. You said to me, you said, Kev, you need to watch it. Oh man, you need to watch it. It's amazing. I watched it and went, I expected more after the way you bigged it up, but I wasn't like, oh, this sucks. I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it. Damien?
Do we need to ask?
I'm not going to sit and say like there was absolutely no redeemable qualities. Right? It looks good. The fighting was fun. I actually liked that they got Wonder Woman's character very, very right. It just is a shame that everyone else was wrong, basically, or played wrong by the wrong actor. But it was a fun watch. I wouldn't waste 4 hours watching it again. And if I could go back, I would definitely not watch it again. Because I didn't gain anything from it. Like, characters didn't develop except Cyborg, but he didn't even develop to the point where he was now comfortable in his body, and we got to see the real Victor Stone. He just sort of developed to the point where he could help, and it was like, gee, thanks. And the only guy that developed Steppenwolf, the only guy you have any sort of sympathy for, gets killed by the good guys, and you're like, well, now I don't like you.
I'd like to bring you on more. I'd like to bring you on more things that you don't know about, just to see how you perceive films in general.
I really take them apart. Like, I really, really go for it.
It's something I'd be really interested in to do again. So,
when I say to my sister, ask Damien if he's seen that. She goes like that. You need to look at me for this, J-Mac. She goes, why? What's the point?
There could be really good movies, right? And then they'll do something wrong with the music, and I'll be like, the music there, just fuck that scene. That scene's now useless.
Oh, sorry, just before we finish up, then, right? The scene where Aquaman walks out of the pub and he's drinking out the bottle of whiskey and he's launched. Right,
everyone's complaining about that.
No. Compare Joss Whedon's one to Zack Snyder's. Oh, you can't. You never fucking seen the first one.
I have seen that scene. Well, but tell me the difference. But I have seen both versions of that.
It's the music. That is it. The music is totally different.
I didn't hear.
Right, the music in the Joss Whedon one, it's like some kind of hard rock thing where he's like, "Yeah, I'm cool, I'm fucking sweet." Then into the sea. In the Snyder version, it's like a really melancholy song. Like, oh fuck, here we go. And I love the Snyder version. Again, I think I'm a bit Snyder biased.
Snyder's great. He is great.
I've never seen 300. I've seen his movies. I think the only other movie I've seen of his is probably Watchmen. And I really
what did you watch? Think of Watchmen.
I loved it.
And that's not in the running for the best superhero film ever.
No,
because like all those characters in Watchmen develop from like point A to point B. Some of them develop in the wrong direction. Some of them become villains. Some of them become heroes. Some of them become unexpected heroes, and some of them totally disconnect from humanity. Whereas, can I say that for Justice League? No.
For me, the Watchmen, it was a 3-hour movie that felt like it was 3 hours. And
really,
for me, the Justice League, again, this is just for me as a person, as an individual. For me, the Justice League was a 4-hour film that felt like a 3-hour film, and that's fucking impressive. That's a compliment. If you can say a 4-hour film felt like 3, that's amazing. Especially the fact that I watched it in 2 installments and it still felt like 3 hours.
From the perspective where I just take it apart from source material, I feel like the movie was made to annoy me. as a general viewer, I just didn't enjoy the movie. Because I couldn't go back and be like, oh man, just watch this one scene, like where the music climaxes, or this one scene where everyone's getting along, or this one. There's no one scene in that, you know, not even one scene I want to show someone.
This goes back to, it's an age-old thing where art is 100% subjective. It just depends on who's looking at it. So you can't say that something's a good or a bad movie unless it's something like Ouija Shark or Sharknado or something like that. Those are just bad movies, but some people enjoy them. Me, but
I would put it down to storytelling more than art for a film. But that again is differences in people. But as a story, I would say it was a bad story. So
on that note, I think we're all at different levels, but it's good. Like, although I would like. I wouldn't argue the case. Like I said a minute ago, I wouldn't tell somebody, like I wouldn't argue with somebody that didn't like or love The Office. It's very Marmite. This film might well be the same, and I think time will tell. The IMDb rating is holding pretty fucking strong at this point. I think it started on day one. It was at 8.6. I think the last time I looked at it was at 8.3, and that's after 250,000 reviews, something like that. So for me, that's a pretty positive outcome. That's not me saying I'm not saying it's the best film. I'm not. I'm saying for me, it's the best superhero film that I've seen, and it's going to take a lot to knock that off the top spot for me. I'm going to rewatch The Watchmen because I've not seen it for a number of years. I'll rewatch that, and I'll give you my opinion then. If that might well overtake it.
There's a few other things I think you should watch as well, where they are dark superhero things, you know, which is what Zack Snyder's going for here, which isn't necessarily right for the Justice League. There is dark options out there that he could do this with instead. You've got like Watchmen, you've got Invincible, you even watch like the Injustice, like just the Justice 1 or 2 cutscenes as a film. That, you know, that's all better options than for the very first Justice League film being so dark and like no development and so grey. I don't think was the right move.
Okay.
But, yeah, I would try one of those if that's what you're looking for.
But I will. I'm willing to give anything a try. It's the way I live my life, isn't it, Kevin? I'll give anything a try as long as Kevin says, "Do it, man, do it." So, I don't know. I'll tell you, you're related to Kevin through marriage, so I'll do it, man. I'll do it. Thanks for coming along tonight, Damian. It's been a blast. I hope you have enjoyed watching us all kind of chewing at each other's noses about this, but I've had fun.
It's been a different kind of format tonight than the usual deep dive. That's why this isn't actually a deep dive. It's more a discussion, because it's kind of hard to deep dive 4 hours without doing an 8-hour bloody podcast, right? So again, that's why tonight was a bit of a different